the reasons that I came up with for this podcast is similarly to have other creators on to kind of talk about their story, and maybe some other up and coming creator or just somebody in general can kind of
Hmm.
draw from that. Tell us a little bit about, how did you come up with the concept for the Proven Knowledge podcast?
Yeah. So me and my buddy, the one that I said we started music together, we were doing a little bit of podcasting before I officially began this show, and we would do like end of the year album reviews, things like that, just kind of talk about our favorite music. And then around the pandemic, when things were shut down, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and there's a podcast called It's the Real. It's like a music podcast, and they interview a ton of artists. They were doing a weekly series where they were in New York, so they were on complete lockdown. They couldn't leave their apartment. So they would do like 3 interviews a day via phone call, just remote like interviews. And I was like, that would be honestly cool to just talk to artists and kind of like put out a show and just get people's, takes on, what it's like to be an artist, and then give them an opportunity to be discovered on a different platform too. So I already had some connections through artists I was working with or people I was in contact with. So I just started reaching out and saying, who would want to, be interviewed on this show? So I got a good amount of responses, probably like 10 or 15 people that said, yeah, that would be awesome. So I just kind of like dove in. And for me, I think the biggest challenges at the beginning was figuring out, like you said, about the formatting and things like that. Like, what was I going to ask? How long was I going to keep it? Because I knew I didn't want it to be like super long. I wanted it to be like digestible for the listeners as well. And then also just like me being somewhat of an introvert and not really knowing the right ways to communicate, it was really at the beginning, it was kind of a struggle to kind of get myself out there and talk to new people and put myself in those uncomfortable situations too. Even though it was remote, it's like it's not face to face, but it's still a conversation and you want it to go well. So that was always like difficult, and that still is a little bit difficult depending on who the guest is. And some guests are different than others, as you probably know. It's like some guests, you'll ask them a question, you might only get a 2 word response, and
Yeah.
you're in your mind, you're like, I was expecting a little more, so now I'm gonna have to, kind of like on the fly figure something out to keep the flow going. And I just always try to make the guests feel at home and just give them questions that feel as personal enough to where it's like, it's unique to you and it's unique to your situation and everything. And just try and like get the most out of it. And like I said, some are different than others. Some episodes go super smooth. I've been starting to do part 2 episodes too. So getting guests back on that I already have some chemistry with, and we can kind of just do a catch up and things like that. But it's been very great just for networking purposes, getting to when you're trying to work with new artists, especially as a producer, what's a better way to do it than have like a direct interview with them. So you're indirectly figuring out if do we have the right chemistry, are we going to be able to create if the relationship goes past just this conversation. So putting all that into motion, I think that's always great. And other than that, it's really like for me, it's like a form of therapy where you can talk to other creatives that are going through the same things as you. And it makes you understand that you're not alone in your journey. Like people are going through similar things because a lot of the times I feel like, we're stuck in our own heads. We have a lot of ideas and sometimes it's frustrating to get them out there. So when you talk to people every week that are going through similar things, it's a lot easier to understand that, there's a lot of people trying to do what you do in their own way. And you just got to keep going and help each other out. And I'm all about community building and really just lifting people up where I can, just helping where I can and shedding light on certain artists. Um, and just doing my part to give back. So it's been nothing but a great experience, and I love doing it.